Buy Dave Koken's MLB World Series pass and get his NHL for free. Dave finished last baseball season ranked #1 in total profit. And right now, with our early bird pricing, you can get Dave's full season through the World Series for $895. Koken is also currently ranked #1 on the ice at Wager Talk, locking Koken's NHL through the Stanley Cup for $459. But for a limited time, by purchasing Dave Koken's early season MLB pass, you will get the rest of Dave's NHL season through the Stanley Cup for free.
All right, guys, welcome in here. It is time for another edition of the College Basketball Tip-Off Show, and it's powered by WagerTalk.com. It's getting close, guys. What a weekend it is going to be. We've got 8 games left. We're going to talk about 4 of them here today, and those games will include Syracuse taking on Houston, little Florida State taking on Michigan, UCLA, Alabama, and, of course, Oregon. The Ducks taking on the USC Trojans, and we'll go ahead and do this with 3 of the best all year long in college basketball. That is Tony Mejia, Dave Koken, and Drew Martin in the house with us at sportsmemo.com. And guys, take a look at these Twitter handles. Always a good follow there. Make sure you are following them. Drew Martin Bets at Mejia Dinero, and, of course, at Dave Koken. And Tony, welcome back in, my friend. Exciting weekend, man. It's going to be a whole lot of fun on our way to crowning a champion here in college basketball. But let me ask you, man, how you been the last week or so? What do you got going on tonight here heading into the weekend at WagerTalk.com?
Well, thanks for having me, Joe. I mean, it's a big college basketball weekend, so I'll have plays in on most games, definitely a 5%, probably 2. The NCAA tournament went really well for me this past weekend. Ended up on a 28-7 run. I think most of that is NCAA tournament because I stayed away from the NIT. Just don't trust how invested those teams are. But for the most part, we're humming down to the wire here, down to the Sweet 16. A lot of riveting matchups. Some we'll touch on today, and even pairing the field down to the NIT with a couple of compelling games.
All right, I love it. And Dave, I know looking forward to the weekend. You're also looking forward to baseball season. I noticed the spot there from Kelly Stewart telling us about how not only can you get your full baseball season, but also the rest of your NHL season, which you are #1 here at Wager Talk. I understand you've got a pretty big 5% play already up in baseball as well.
I finished up my over and under win props. I went with 2 that are 3% level, 1 that's a 4%, and first one ever, a 5% over and under wins prop. I think the number's off by like 6.5 or 7 on this particular team, and definitely looking to take advantage of that. That play's available now. If you want to just buy that play individually, you can go to my homepage at WagerTalk, wt.buzz/DC, and get the one play. But obviously would love to get some people on board for the full season. It was great last year. That was good last year. I hate using the word great because there's always room for improvement. But it was good last year, and I expect more of the same this year, and very happy to see the season back.
I'll use a number. 1. That should describe what you need to know about Dave Koken and his baseball season last year. So make sure that you're visiting, get that 5% play, and get ready for baseball season because the guy is going to be hosting first pitch here beginning on Monday. Yes. Excited for the baseball season. Drew Martin joining us, sportsmemo.com. And Drew, before we even talk baseball, my friend, I know you're locked and loaded for the Sweet 16 here. You're excited. You crushed it all year long in college hoops. So talk to us, man. What do you got? What do you got in store for us this weekend as well at sportsmemo.com?
Yeah, Joe, Sweet 16, it's a huge weekend. And, yeah, I got a play I really like as well as Dave was talking about, 5%ers. So hopefully it comes through because this season has been good. Lately, though, been given some units back. So looking to bounce back here and feeling strong about it. And, yeah, Joe, like you talked about, MLB show, really excited for that. We're kicking it off on Monday. It's going to be a fun time. Dave is a regular. Tony will likely be on as well. And a lot of good baseball information each and every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Starting on Monday, we got AL and NL previews Monday and Tuesday, and then we're hitting the games. We got opening day, Joe, less than a week away.
Yeah, I know. So just knocking on wood. It is. We're all extremely happy that that the sports are back, and we are getting closer and closer to normalcy across the board in the sports and sports betting world. So we're excited, but we're also excited, of course, about this Syracuse-Houston game. We'll start with that one today, guys, as we kick it off. The Sweet 16 this weekend. Number 11 Syracuse versus number 2 Houston. Opens up Houston 6.5. Total at 140, and I'm seeing 140 and a half, 6.5, rock solid. That's where it's open. That's pretty much where it's at here, Tony Mejia. So I guess maybe the big question is, how healthy is Houston, and how many more three-pointers can Syracuse hit? Your thoughts on this game, Tony Mejia?
Well, I stayed away from Houston last weekend, one of the few games I didn't touch because of Dejan Giroux's hip. And he gutted it out, man. And they should have lost that game. Although coming down the stretch, I tweeted all they have to do is start fouling Rutgers into the 1-and-1s, and they'll come back in this game quickly. And they did, but they did it without fouling. They did it just by playing defense and playing it out. It was a somewhat of a mismanaged game, but it did show off Giroux's ability to be the heart and soul of that Houston Cougar team on both sides of the ball. Hopefully, he's healthier for this one. The spread was a little eye-opening. I didn't anticipate Houston being favored by quite as much as they are. But the one thing you mentioned, how many threes can Syracuse continue to hit? Houston obviously doesn't run into teams like Syracuse with great regularity in the American, but they are the number 6 three-point percentage defense in the entire country. Number 5 in the entire country, allowing an average of 28% from beyond the arc. So one of those teams that with their length and their determination to get out and contest shots really could be an Achilles heel for Houston. They can't let Buddy Boeheim get going. Boeheim's been lights out for the last month plus.
Yeah, Dave, we mentioned it a little bit yesterday on the show, talking about Syracuse last weekend hit 50% of their three-pointers in both wins there. And is that even feasible? Can they keep that up?
Probably not 50%, but and here's the one thing. Tony's right on the stat on Houston, but I find it to be kind of a misleading stat because that conference just had a bunch of brick shooters in it. It was a bad offensive league. And the two teams they faced in the NCAA tournament are not good outside shooting teams. Cleveland State was well below average in three-point shooting, and Rutgers can't do anything. Rutgers is just a lousy offensive team, and blew the game. And they frankly blew the game this past weekend because they can't run offense and can't shoot the three. Syracuse can shoot the three, and Syracuse is playing tremendous zone defense right now, and the team's on a roll. I think this is going to be a close game. If you're asking me to pick the winner, I'll go with the Houston Cougars. But, boy, I don't want to lay that kind of a number to a Syracuse team that is clearly playing its best basketball of the season right now. I think it might be a little bit high. I'm leaning to the Syracuse side plus the points.
Syracuse plus the point. And, Drew, talk to us about this game. Which way are you approaching it? Are you going side? Are you going total? How are you looking at it?
Yeah, Joe. I mean, I kind of am with Dave here. It's a Syracuse team that, you asked me to pick the winner. I would be with Houston, but I think Houston does have some question marks. One being their conference. The AAC in years past has had some really good basketball teams. This year, not so much. I don't think there was a lot of offensive talent. And the way that they made it here to the Sweet 16, when you just look at who they've played in shooting-wise, Cleveland State and Rutgers not really up there with the likes of, teams that shoot lights out. Whereas Syracuse, a team that is really coming on of late, when you look at their ACC schedule, Joe, kind of up and down, really down the middle. And then they got into the tournament and they beat San Diego State. That was a good San Diego State Aztecs team there in the Mountain West. And West Virginia, a team that I thought, could make it to the Final Four. They held them at bay. So now going up against Houston, this 2-3 zone against ACC teams, it's decent. Against teams that don't see it very often, teams really struggle offensively. And I think Houston is going to have some trouble putting the ball in the basket. And Houston, the way that they play defense, I think both teams are going to have trouble scoring. But if you make me pick a side here, I would take the points with the underdog.
I just want to mention one thing. You go back to that North Carolina game that Syracuse had at the beginning of March. And that was a game that they were supposed to lose, and everybody was all over the Tar Heels in that game. They won the game. They've been a different team since then. It's kind of like the light went on for Syracuse, and you can maybe draw a line starting with that game. They've got a 3-point loss on a neutral court to Virginia, and that's it. And they've beaten a lot of good basketball teams. I do like this team right now.
Yeah, another
that
problem
was
with that. Yeah, another problem with that 2-3 zone is running pick and rolls against it. Most teams are not very successful running it. Houston, 31% of their possessions this year pick and roll, so they may have to find a few other ways to score in this matchup. So that's game one, guys. Syracuse taking on Houston. We're going to move on to Florida State. Going to be taking on a Michigan team. Number 3.5 is what we had there to open this up. We got a total of 146 as it just appears the money is coming in a little bit on Florida State. I'm seeing 2.5s right now. 143.5 as the total comes down. So, Dave, let me send it to you here. Michigan, Florida State. Is this the game where they finally miss Isaiah Livers?
It might very well be. I mean, he's certainly worth at least a point or two when you power rate Michigan. And when you do that, the number comes down a little bit. I mean, I think you can make a case that the number here, the right number for me now is probably 3. So that doesn't leave much room for argument because the line's 2.5. But this was a game where I originally, if you give me a healthy Michigan team, I think I probably am out there looking at them probably being rightfully about a 5-point favorite. And now a couple points less than that. I don't know what to do here because Michigan, I think this is fair to say, tremendous. Obviously, they've had an absolutely great season and at times have looked like as dominant a team as you'll find any place, but a little less even coming down the stretch. They have not played their best basketball at the end of the season. They just got thumped by Illinois. And you can make excuses for these games. Got destroyed by Illinois. Lost to Michigan State. It was a lot bigger game for the Spartans in the regular season finale. Okay. Lost to Ohio State in the tournament. Quite frankly, that should not have happened. I know it was, I'm not even going to say it was a bigger game for Ohio State because I don't think it was. They've looked good in this tournament. But I just don't see that they're playing at the same level they were earlier in the season. If that returns here, well, then they'll get rid of the Seminoles. I can't guarantee that it will, though. I don't know what to do with this game because I'm still not as sold on Florida State as a lot of other people are. I've never been quite as high on this team as some others, and yet here they are in the Sweet 16, so it shows you what I know.
Yep, and that whole bracket there, Drew, 1 versus 4 here, the only one that we've got. Talk to me about Florida State, a team that you follow throughout the year there, taking on this Michigan squad. Is it just a matter of they're even, take the points? How are you going to approach it?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, it's the bracket where I guess the chalk prevailed. We actually got one here. Talking about Michigan, the Livers injury, I watch out for that. It's a team that went 2-3 their last 5 games of the regular season, plus the Big Ten tournament, and then they played Texas Southern. I don't put much into that game, Joe. But the LSU game, the game that they did win against a LSU Bayou Bengals team that I thought was pretty good. The only problem when you look under the hood here, Michigan shot 40% from 3. LSU went ice cold. So I think that from 3, just 26%, I believe, in that game. And now they're having to go up against Florida State. And I think Florida State's going to shoot a lot better than LSU. They're long, they're strong, they play good defense. Leonard Hamilton, a good coach there for Florida State. So I like the underdog again here, Joe. I took personally Florida State plus 2.5, and I think they win this game outright.
All right. Well, Tony Mejia, how are you going to approach this game? Side, total, where are you going to go?
Well, it's right on my numbers, so I'm gonna play my gut and pick Michigan because I think Michigan will advance. But I may not touch this game whatsoever in terms of betting it because I think it's right around 3. And you asked if they would miss Isaiah Livers in finally, and I think this is the game that they will because Florida State has so much length and versatility. And to me, Eli Brooks is the heart and soul of the Michigan Wolverines, but Livers is right there as a leader as well. And then Brooks is somewhat neutralized by the fact that Florida State is so long in the backcourt. MJ Walker, the freshman Scotty Barnes is 6'8" running around out there, and Michigan's point guard is 5'11" Mike Smith. So that's one thing where if I'm going to ride with Drew and change my mind and go FSU, that would be one factor is the fact that Michigan typically doesn't have to deal with this variety of length and typically is the longer team on the court because of Wagner and obviously Hunter Dickinson. The Seminoles can throw Koprivica at you. They'll miss Livers against Raekwon Gray, who's really stepped up. So this is probably going to be one of the better games of the weekend. So I'd love to have some action in it. Not sure which way I'm going to go. Right now, the lean is Michigan. But again, my mind can be changed on this one.
All right, there you go, guys. That one as well there. Florida State taking on Michigan. 5 p.m. on Sunday for that one is the tip-off. We're going to move on to the 7:15 on Sunday game, that being UCLA taking on Alabama. Alabama opens up as a 4.5-point favorite. That has since risen to 6.5. Total at the open is 144. I'm seeing 145, 145 and a halves in this one. And Drew, let me come to you first. Alabama loves to play up and down the court here in transition. UCLA pretty good in their transition defense here. So something's got to give. How do you have it?
Yeah, UCLA is a fascinating handicap, Joe. I mean, when I came into this tournament, in terms of power rating conferences, I was really unsure of my numbers, really the market numbers, just because there was a lack of cross-pollination with conferences playing conferences. And sure enough, the Pac-12 coming out the gate looking really strong. And I kind of made notes to myself to make sure to kind of get off of my numbers early. And I think we've seen that adjustment in the marketplace just in this number. Alabama minus 6.5. I'm not sure if it's enough here. It's kind of a difficult handicap just because UCLA, they down the stretch of the regular season, not looking all that great at all. Losing to Oregon State, USC, Oregon, Colorado, and then coming into the tournament, having that really close fought game against Michigan State in the first four. But since then, finding themselves in the Sweet 16, beating BYU and Abilene Christian. I mean, hats off to Abilene Christian, great season. And BYU, I think, was pretty overrated there in the WCC. So they've had a pretty easy road to get to the Sweet 16. In my opinion, it's a huge step up in class to Nate Oates' Alabama team. This Alabama team, like you talked about, Joe, up and down the court and a top 5 team in terms of defensive efficiency. That's a great profile of teams I like to bet. They knock down their free throws as well. So keep in mind, this is all coming from an Auburn fan. In terms of fandom here, I would like to see Alabama lose, but my money is on the Crimson Tide, Joe.
So the market also there, Tony Mejia, agreeing it's all Alabama in this one, continues to go their way. What do you think?
Well, strength in numbers plays a key role this time of year, and certainly Alabama right now is among the deeper teams in the entire country. They got Joshua Primo back. It was really nice to see him because I didn't think he would make it back for this tournament. He made a contribution in the rout of Maryland, and I really loved what they were able to do in that game against the Terps because the two teams were beating each other up, getting into it, from a trash talking standpoint, and then Alabama just put on the foot on the gas and dusted them. And it was a really impressive performance, one that we haven't really seen from Alabama in a while. In the SEC, they kind of decided that they would be more of a defensive-minded team. And against the Maryland Terrapins, they were able to really go full throttle on the three-pointers. UCLA, you know what you're going to get from them. They got 2 key players that have to get going for them to have a chance in this game, Johnny Juzek and Jaime Jaquez. And then you got your X factors. So there really is no room for error for Mick Cronin's squad. I understand the line move, but I don't love that number is getting up so far north. If you haven't gotten in already, you're going to have to do some serious, give some serious thought to potentially staying away from this game. But Alabama is definitely the rightful favorite.
So, Dave, 337th in tempo, UCLA going up against Alabama, number 11. Can UCLA dictate tempo in your mind in this one?
I don't know, because Alabama just faced a team that, in terms of pace, plays very much like UCLA. They played Maryland. Maryland is a very slow-paced team, and they were completely unable to snail it. In fact, if you watch the first few minutes of the game, Maryland got out to a quick start. They were hitting everything early, and you could look at that and say, "Boy, this is the time to jump in and bet Alabama live," because you could see Alabama was going to get the ball up and down the court, and that was not going to be good for Maryland. So I guess it's the same thing here. UCLA has to find a way to slow the tempo down. What I would recommend, if you want to bet something here, is wait and see what the tempo looks like early, not what's happening with the shots, because it's possible that they might be going up and down the court, and UCLA might be hitting shots early. But if they're going up and down the court, eventually Alabama's going to pummel them. If, on the other hand, UCLA is able to stifle Alabama's movement and turn it into more of a grind, then the Bruins are going to have a chance. The market's going to be all over Alabama here, and with good reason. They were last weekend. They bet Alabama like the game was already over, and they all got paid because they ended up blowing out the Terrapins. So I can see why the money's coming in on Alabama. I would agree with Tony that the line has gotten a little bit rich. The value's kind of gone. I am going to take a look at betting this in-game and hoping that I can get Alabama down early, but that the pace is fast. If that's the case, I'll bet Alabama live. If not, I'll just sit it out.
Our live odds page at wagertalk.com. Guys, make sure you visit it right now. 64% of the tickets, 91% of the money coming in on Alabama. It is rolling tide, roll tide. All right, we got one more game we're going to break down for you. And who saw this coming a month or two back, huh? How about this? Oregon, USC, the battle of the Pac-12 here. USC opens up as a 1-point favorite. That is since moved to 2 in a number of spots. 138 was the opening. There are a couple of 138.5s, even a 139 floating around. But Tony Mejia, let me ask you, man, it seems like the great, buy low, sell high spot here. And I know people are remembering that 34-point bludgeoning of Kansas here by USC. Is it time to maybe sell on USC in this spot?
Potentially. I mean, I've got a pair of Oregon pom-poms because they were my 5% play against VCU in a game that wasn't played. And then I rode them, in their upset of the top-ranked team in their region, which wasn't Iowa wasn't a top-ranked team, but in a game they were expected to lose, and they really dominated that game. So I'm probably going to ride with the Ducks for those reasons. They're playing their best ball at the best time. But to answer your question, USC beat Oregon in their only regular season meeting without Isaiah Mobley. So, and obviously Mobley was the key, not his little brother, who's more the highly heralded recruit. He was the key to this past blowout at Kansas by getting hot early, and they did their inside-outside thing. And so he'll be in the mix for this one. USC will be at full strength. Oregon will be as well. Oregon had everybody that's going to play a key role in this coming game in their February 22nd meeting. They got down 43-22 at the break at the Galen Center. So USC has that in their back pocket, a 72-58 win. That ultimately helped them, proceeding in that Pac-12 tournament. The Pac-12 was such a weird ride this season. And these two teams were at the top of the entire bracket. So it's good to see at least one of them will move on. But yeah, I think I agree with USC being favored, especially with Isaiah Mobley in the mix. But again, Oregon's been too good to me, and really love the brand of basketball that they're playing with Omarui and Figueroa both really stepping up at the right time, and Chris Duarte able to control the pace as one of the top point guards in the country.
Gabe, it's real hard to give Dana Altman a week to prepare, knowing that he lost that game that Tony just talked about, and he's getting points. How do you do it?
You just gave away my analysis.
I don't see how it works.
I'm not going against Dana Altman with this much time to prepare. I think he'll outcoach Enfield. I think USC's got a better personnel, and it's not a knock on Enfield. He's done a good job, but Altman, I'm not fading him. So it's Oregon a pass for me, and you can throw out everything else. I think the coach is the determining factor here.
Yep, and fully healthy. Finally, Oregon here, Drew. How do you go about it, man? It's certainly a small enough number. Do you, one way or the other, do you like the total or you like the side in this one?
Joe, this is a tough one. I think Tony brings up some good points in terms of, USC not being at full strength and yet still beating down Oregon. I guess you can say, that USC was at home in that game. Things can change now. But like Dave and yourself, Joe, are talking about, coaching angle, maybe giving an edge here towards Oregon and keeping in mind, going from the round of 64 to the round of 32, only one day off. So I don't think coaching, the advantage that one team might have in coaching matters that much. But this time around, from the round of 32 to the Sweet 16, you get multiple days off to really implement what you want to do in the next round. So I think coaching comes to the forefront in the Sweet 16, in the Final Four. When you get multiple days to prep here, it's not exactly the same handicap from round to round. So I think that does point to Oregon, to Oregon, excuse me. It's just so tough in this matchup because, like in your lead-in, is it almost a little bit too high of a buy high here on USC? They just look really good in the late game. A lot of eyeballs on them here. That's the one thing that worries me about this matchup here, Joe. So this is one I doubt I'll touch by the time it tips off.
I think it's going to be one hell of a game day. 9:45, that's the one on Sunday night, guys, that we will be treated to. In the meantime, treat yourself. Do a visit over to wagertalk.com. Make sure you check out Tony Mejia and Dave Koken as they are locked and loaded for this weekend. And don't forget, of course, Dave's got a 5% futures bet in baseball, which also kicks off next week. Excited about that. But the opportunities to make it a profitable season are there. Visit Dave at his page at wagertalk.com. And, of course, Tony Mejia continuing to roll on the hardwood. And don't forget, sportsmemo.com is where you can get Drew. He's got a big 5% play here, Sweet 16. Loves it. You will as well. Make sure you visit him at sportsmemo.com. All right, best bet time here, guys. Let's go. Tony Mejia, coming to you first, my friend. We got some interesting games, not only in the tournament, but there's still a couple of games that have to be played in some of these other tournaments there. So talk to me. What's your best bet here?
Yeah, my homework assignment right after I get done with this taping is to throw up the Mississippi State Louisiana Tech pick as my free play on WT.buzz/TM. And it is the under as these two teams meet in the semifinal. The other semifinal is a pair of number ones in Colorado State and Memphis. Mississippi State and Louisiana Tech. The only buzzkill here is it's not in New York. These aren't the semifinals at Madison Square Garden. They're the semifinals in Denton, Texas, home of the North Texas and Mean Green. That court design is a little hard on the eyes. But both of these teams are used to it. Louisiana Tech's had a really nice run in this tournament, and I'm surprised Mississippi State is still around. Ben Howland in a tournament, for me, really tournament setting I've lost too many times backing his teams, but he's still got the Bulldogs around. They will defend the paint. They've got a 7-footer in Ado who can really detract. And we saw that the Hilltoppers weren't able to turn back the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. They play in the same conference, so maybe that familiarity aided the cause. They have one of the best shot blockers in Charles Bassey. So I think Louisiana Tech can win, but the top play in this game is the under 136.5, 137. I see this as a race to 65. So give me the under in Mississippi State, Louisiana Tech.
All right, love it. First one to 65 wins. All right, Dave, talk to us, my friend. Who you leaning with here this weekend?
And that's all it is a lean, because I think I'm probably only going to play one game this weekend in the tournament, and it's not this one. But I do lean to Oregon State for the reasons we discussed yesterday. I think it's going to be a low possession game against Loyola Chicago, a real battle. Two excellent game coaches, by the way, in Tinkle and Moser, two absolutely outstanding game coaches who are getting the attention they really deserve in this tournament. Moser got his a few years ago when they made their first run at Loyola, but Tinkle is really showing people why he's so well respected in the coaching industry and among people who follow the game closely. He's an outstanding coach. I think Oregon State Loyola is going to be not an exciting game because it's going to be slow-paced, but I think it's going to be close. So taking 7 looks like a decent idea to me with the Beavers.
Yep, absolutely. All right, Drew, talk to me, my friend. Where are you going here on the card? I know you got a 5% play up at sportsmemo.com, but is there another game you circled for us?
Yeah, Joe, going low volume this weekend. Not too many games left in college basketball, but the ones I'm betting I really like here, the one on Sports Memo, and then best bet. We got Florida State and Michigan. Talked about it earlier. Love what Juwan Howard's done here with Michigan, but with the injury to Livers and the length that they're going to have to go up against Florida State, I think Michigan does struggle here. Leonard Hamilton gets the boys from Tallahassee going. And they're long, they're strong, and in my opinion, they're underrated. I think they win outright, but for the best bet for the show, I'll take Florida State. That's the Seminoles, plus 2.5.
Again, I am all with you on that there, Drew. I think when you have two teams that are evenly matched on paper, I'll take the 3 points any day in this spot, not to mention 3-1-1. The last 5 as an underdog in the tournament. So they've been in this spot before, and they have covered. One more time, best bet recap here, guys. Those of you just joining us, Tony Mejia, you can get him at wagertalk.com. Mississippi State La Tech under 136.5 in that matchup. Dave's leaning Oregon State, taking the points there against Loyola. Drew and myself, we like Florida State. Give us the points here if you can get 2.5 or even 3 if there's any remaining out there. That's the way to go. And don't forget, Drew, sportsmemo.com, 5% play up and locked and loaded for the Sweet 16. And Tony Mejia ready to go. And don't forget, Dave's baseball package is available right now. Grab him this season and get the rest of the NHL season right now. Visit his page at wagertalk.com. On behalf of Tony Mejia, Dave Koken, and, of course, Drew Martin, guys, hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. We've got another show coming your way next week as we get ready to crown a champion. We've got you covered here on the College Basketball Tip-Off Show. In the meantime, best of luck with your plays this weekend, guys. We'll talk to you next week.